Chris Eubank Jr. has signed to Eddie Hearn's Matchroom promotional outfit, and his new trainer will be Adam Booth. First of all, shout out to Rob Plant, because he was saying this for the past few days or maybe a week or so that this move was going to happen. And all I could say to it was, I hope so, because I think the relationship with Frank Warren and Box Nation has run its course. So it has indeed happened. It's interesting that Eubank Sr. has realized now that he can't really train his son. And it's also interesting that he believes, it seems to indicate that Ronnie Davis also isn't the man to be training his son. And they've got Adam Booth instead. Now, long-time subscribers of mine will know that I've never really been the biggest fan of Adam Booth. I think Booth is a very good trainer when it comes to getting his fighters in condition. And he does have a particular style, okay, which is somewhat effective against certain fighters. An ambush style where he uses a lot of feinting and he don't really use much combination punching or inside fighting or anything like that. But he gets his fighters to circle on the outside. Not so much Andy Lee, because Andy Lee really don't have the athleticism to be able to pull that kind of stuff off. Although he does feint a lot more than he used to now than he did when he was under Manny Stewart. But still, generally speaking, Booth has a particular type of style which he teaches his fighters, and it can be somewhat effective. But I've never been convinced by Booth's ability to teach inside fighting. I've never been convinced by his ability to teach defense. And those were areas with David Haye and George Groves. That's right, George Groves too. People act like George Groves' biggest mistake was splitting with Adam Booth. But if you go back to George Groves against Kenny Anderson, his defense was very, very porous, to say the least. Even George Groves, when he fought Paul Smith, that was only a 2-round fight, but George Groves was getting caught with clean shots in the first round against Paul Smith. All right. So, and you just look at Andy Lee. Andy Lee's never had a great defense, to be fair, but it certainly hasn't improved much under Adam Booth. So, yeah, Adam Booth, he has his abilities. And also, one thing I didn't mention is that Adam Booth is very good, in my opinion, when it comes to the psychological aspect of boxing. I think he's very good at preparing his fighters mentally and instilling confidence in them. I think he's very, very good at that. And Booth apparently has a degree in sports psychology, so that would explain it. But yeah, basically what I'm saying is I'm not sure whether Adam Booth is going to be the right fit for Eubank Jr. Because I don't think Adam Booth's skill set in terms of what he can teach is rounded enough. Because Chris Eubank Jr. has a lot of raw natural ability. He is a terrific combination puncher. And he has the potential, in my opinion, to become a very, very good inside fighter. He's not a guy like his dad who had very long arms for his height. Eubank Jr. kind of has average length arms for his height. So a guy like, you know, his shoulders are not as wide. They're more compact than his dad's were. So he has a more suitable physique for inside fighting, kind of like Andre Ward. So personally, I think that a Virgil Hunter would have been a better fit for Chris Eubank Jr. He's got the athleticism and he's got the build to be able to replicate what Andre Ward does, probably better than anyone else that Virgil Hunter trains. He's got that kind of athleticism about him. He's got the build and all that. So I would have preferred to see him with Hunter. Again, a lot of people are going to criticize Hunter, but what I can tell you is there is no one-size-fits-all trainer. Different trainers are good for different fighters. Right? The closest thing I've seen in boxing to a one-size-fits-all trainer was Manny Stewart. Because Manny Stewart, I've never seen a trainer take so many fighters from amateurs to champions as Manny Stewart. I've never seen anything like it. There probably never has been anything like it. This guy took loads of fights. Do your research on Manny Stewart if you don't know what I'm talking about. This guy took loads of fighters from amateurs to world champions. And obviously he revived the careers of many fighters. Now, Manny Stewart primarily did prefer to train lanky fighters, tall fighters, etc. He did prefer that, although he still had success with shorter fighters as well. Dennis Andrews. His work with Miguel Cotto was fairly good. Evander Holyfield, he trained him for the Bowe rematch, famously came up with a strategy and had him beating Riddick Bowe. So he can train shorter fighters too. He is effective with that as well. He just primarily prefers to train taller guys. Even Adonis Stevenson is not really a tall guy, although he does have very long arms. And Manny Stewart was the mastermind behind Adonis Stevenson originally anyway. So yeah, that's the closest thing I've seen to a one-size-fits-all trainer, a guy who just has the Midas touch. Whatever he touches turns to gold. Other trainers, it's hit and miss. They need a particular type of athlete who has certain aptitudes to be able to train them effectively. All right. And I just feel that Eubank Jr. has talent which I'm not sure Adam Booth can fully make the most out of. I think that's the best way I could put it. I'm not sure that he has what it takes to harness all that ability and channel it in the most effective way. You know, Adam Booth. I'm not sure he has that, but it remains to be seen. We'll see how it goes. I would, as I say, personally like to see Eubank Jr. with someone like Virgil Hunter. I think that would be the perfect match, and he could turn him into, you know, kind of an Andre Ward clone, maybe a little bit more exciting than Ward, but you know, something similar. They've got very similar builds and whatnot. And also, I'm wondering if Chris Eubank Jr., aside from the whole Adam Booth trainer situation, you guys can drop your comments on that in the comment section below and let me know what you think. But aside from the whole trainer situation, we've now got him on Sky Sports, Eddie Hearn Matchroom Promotions. I'm wondering how the relationship is going to go between Eubank Sr. and Eddie Hearn, because Eddie Hearn had said previously in previous interviews that he would be interested in signing Chris Eubank Jr., but he'd be concerned about the relationship that he'd have with Eubank Sr., because he believes that Eubank Sr. still sees him as a little boy. Because those of you who are old enough to remember, you'll know that Eubank Sr. for the majority of his career was promoted by Barry Hearn, Eddie Hearn's dad. And during all that time, little Eddie Hearn was running around as a little kid, right? And he knew Chris Eubank Jr. from when he was a little kid. Sorry, Chris Eubank Sr. And Sr. always saw him as a little kid. He used to call him Edward. You know how Eubank Sr. is. He likes calling people by their full names. So Eddie Hearn is worried that Chris Eubank Sr. still sees him as little Edward rather than takes him seriously as a businessman and as a promoter. So there could be possible conflict there. We know that Eubank Sr. is definitely not going to be the easiest guy to deal with. We'll see how it goes. And it's going to be interesting to see if Eubank Jr. stays at middleweight, because we know he's a very big middleweight, or if he moves up to super middleweight, because there's obviously a potential fight there with James DeGale. If you remember when Eubank Jr. was with Mick Hennessy, James DeGale was also with Mick Hennessy during that time, and Eubank Jr. tried to spark up a rivalry with James DeGale. He messaged him on Facebook or something and said, "I don't hate you, but we can start up a rivalry," and blah, blah, blah. You know, he was basically just trying to plant the seeds for a rivalry in the future, a showdown in the future. It would be nice to see that rivalry spark up again if Eubank Jr. steps up to super middleweight. And a good opponent, in my opinion, for Eubank Jr. to go for, and this will be very interesting having Adam Booth in his corner, but a good opponent for Eubank Jr. to go for if he does step up to super middleweight anytime soon will be George Groves. Yeah, he's a wounded man and all that, but I think that would be a good opponent to go for. Eubank Jr. has sparred a hell of a lot with George Groves. In his words, countless rounds with George Groves. And from what I've heard, again, I'm not I haven't been witness to these sparring sessions, but from what I've heard, Eubank Jr. a lot of the time has got the better of them sparring sessions with Groves. So I think that would be a natural fight to make if he steps up to super middleweight. Fight Groves. If he beats Groves, then a James DeGale fight would seem perfectly logical. A James DeGale title shot if James DeGale still has the title by then. So yeah, interesting news. Again, shout out to Rob Plant for the inside info. And drop your comments below, people. Let me know how you feel about this news. I'm out.